Happy 4-month Vanniversary. I'm going to do this from a different spot this time, which is reclining my sore ass up in this bed because I just finished a 2.5-hour strut. I can't run, I have to power walk because I have the bone structure of Quasimodo. But since I have something I usually don't have, which is woods, trees, there's still people all over the place. I can't get rid of them, but we're just gonna take a little break before I get back to scaring the general public because this is pretty nice. So let me hook this back up, and I've got a whole month of questions, comments, concerns. I'm gonna ignore the concerns, but everything else we're gonna talk about now that we're 4 months in. Crazy. The crouching ginger pose will also give you some idea of the headroom I have, the way I built the van, because that's been a big question is the bed too high? I don't sleep like this. Me personally, I don't know about you, I lay down to sleep. So I'm never sitting like this. This is fine for reading a book, and that's how I built it. Now, if you sleep sitting up, there's probably a lot more going on in your life that I can't cover in this video. Just because of logistics, I finally had to cave, and after weeks of not staying in an RV park, I stayed in one. What was it, last night? Yeah. Let me show you what came out of the spigot for my water. Okay, now it was clear when it came out of the pipe, and then when I boiled it, it turned like porta potty water brown. Now I understand that sometimes mineral content, specifically iron, can do that to water. It wasn't happening at the other spigots, which was really questionable. So that's what, it was not cheap. And I had poop brown water to work with, and it left an orange layer of crusty rust in the bottom of my kettle. Anywhere you go, there's typically only one, maybe two or three. And they've just got the RV community by the balls. It's like the same family that's owned it since RVs were invented. And they're just old, worn out most of the time. The new ones, you know, but again, the new ones you're gonna pay out the nose for. It's just frustrating. The funny thing about Costco and Cabelas is that I've been doing this now 4 months, and I've been to plenty of Costco's because I buy food there, and I've also passed by many Cabelas. If you don't ask and just do it, I've had no problem. If you ask, they will tell you no. I have yet to find a Costco or Cabelas in 4 months where I called ahead out of courtesy to confirm that you could overnight park for RVs. They've all said no. One of them, I think I was there for 3 nights. I stayed there without asking at a Costco for 2 nights. Nobody said anything. And then on the 3rd night, I'm like, you know what? The nighttime employees who are leaving, like, they're probably going to start wondering what the creepy van in the back is all about. So I called on the 3rd night, and they were like, oh, yeah, no, you absolutely, no overnight parking. I was like, okay, but I've been doing it for the past 2 nights there, and, like, it's not been a big deal. And there was just dead silence, and he was like, yeah, you can't. Yep, nope. So as I've been going north, the parking options are getting harder and harder to find. The Walmarts are less open to overnight parking. I've not found any Costco's, Cabelas. It's starting to get harder, and I think that is just the nature of, in the South, our industry is based on tourism. So we're like rolling out the red carpet for visitors. And as you go north, it's less so. So it is getting trickier and trickier. This was an interesting phenomenon that I didn't realize was happening until about 3.5 months in. And that was, I have not been having dreams. And it wasn't until I stayed at a friend's house, and she had like a Fort Knox level fence and gate system and I was parked all the way in the back, that I finally had a dream, and it occurred to me that I'd not been dreaming for 3.5 months, which means that I've not been getting into like really deep sleep for 3.5 months. And the only thing that I can think of that might cause that is because, particularly if you're doing this by yourself, no matter where you are, if you're sleeping in a car, unlike a house, and you're in a strange place, I think at some level, even if you go to sleep, your subconscious is always on alert. And because any little noise is going to wake you up at night. If you hear a truck that might even sound like a tow truck, boom, you're up. If somebody walks by the van and you hear it, you're up. I mean, you don't really get deep sleep for long amounts of time, so I've not been dreaming, which is just kind of a bizarre thing to not have done for that long. So, and don't think that if you stay in a campground that it's going to be any different, because I'll tell you what, here's something that's in a campground that will absolutely ruin your sleep. Dogs. RV people love bringing, and they never have just one. There's like 4, and they're usually this big. And those dogs bark the whole night. I mean, I've not had to hold my gun with the intent to kill many times in my life, but I've definitely stayed in a campground where I wanted to unleash the fury of metal hail to get that dog to shut the fuck up. Oh, it's so bad. And like, there's really nothing that you can do about it. Like, what are you going to do? Call the police with a noise complaint? You know, the lady in parking spot 17 tell her Shih Tzu to shut up. Like, there's nothing you can do. There are lots of dogs in campgrounds, so it's not necessarily better than a Walmart parking lot, as bizarre as that is. In Walmart parking lots, it's mainly people like doing drugs in the back, and they're quiet. If you need to have 8 hours of deep sleep, might I recommend an apartment? Also, if you have any kind of severe weather, and not even severe, like a solid rainstorm, when you're in a house, rain hits your roof, and then there's space in the attic, insulation, rafters, and then ceiling, and then, feet below that is you. So you're not used to hearing rain. Well, when I got the van, I had these like really romantic ideas about it's going to be like the sound of rain on a tin roof. No, it sounds like there is an aircraft carrier 3 feet above the van, just like raining this hail of bullets down on top of this, because there's insulation, but it's my head, a tin tile ceiling, insulation, and then the sky. I mean, there is no buffer. If it rains at any level above a drizzle, it is so loud in here, you are not sleeping. Safety. I think I've covered this, but I still get requests to talk about this more, and usually by women. I've already gone into that pepper spray, bear spray. It's ridiculous. And I'm not going to go into the whole reasoning again, but the short version of it is that you would never spray a projectile, anything, in an enclosed space. You will be as incapacitated as your attacker, period. The last time I talked about this, a man wrote in the comment section that clearly I was not intelligent, because the way to do that is to spray the pepper spray or the bear spray when your attacker is 20 feet away from the vehicle. So you do this before they even get near the van. I don't know that that's going to hold up in court, sir. Someone who is 20 to 30 feet away from your van, that's a pedestrian. In the real world, when I meet like other van ladies, which is not totally common, but when I do, they all have guns. It's not something that they brag about. It's not the first thing that anyone offers up in conversation. But in reality, the women on the road who are by themselves, I have yet to run into one who at some point we both don't acknowledge that, like, yeah, we have our murder toys. You have to. I've only held the gun once, when I thought I was in danger for my life, and that was in Apalachicola with the psychopath with the metal pipe. And the only other time that I had an issue that was a threat to my person was in a situation where I didn't think that I needed any kind of murder weapon. And the short of that story is I needed, and I'm going to keep it vague, I needed help with something I was doing. And help was offered by a man who was much bigger and much older than me. And at the end of said help, he decided that he deserved a little treat for his graciousness. And as quick as it happened, it ended, and probably because he saw my reaction. And that was it. But there's a reason that this is always in my back pocket. And I didn't need to use it that day, but had that situation gone any further than it did, I would have this with me. Because in a fight, I'm not going to win. In a fight with this, I've got a damn good chance. So rather than continue this bullshit conversation about mace and pepper spray and blah, 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 like, have the real conversation about if you actually had to fight for your life, what would you use? Because I can almost guarantee you it's not going to be in a little tiny bottle at the bottom of your purse. And then typically the feedback that I'll get from the male population on this conversation is they'll say, well, are you aware that in northern states the gun laws are different and you cannot, cross them over state lines? And yes, I'm fully aware of that. But I'll also add that I'm not sure what you think, how you think that this goes down on a daily basis. I don't get out of bed in the morning at Walmart and toss my rocking chair into the parking lot and sit there polishing my muzzle loader. And I don't throw up in the side door pew, pew, pew. Howdy, y'all. All this stuff stays where it needs to stay so that I can access it quickly if I have to use it in an emergency. I don't show it around. So I'm not quite sure where that would become an issue unless the van got searched. And if the van is getting searched, I probably have much bigger problems. So as they say in law enforcement, I would much rather be judged in a courtroom by 12 than carried in a casket by 6. Where do you get mail and packages? I think this question is so funny. I get it so much. And the first question I ask back is, people still get mail? Before I left, I told anyone who I might owe money to, a recent doctor's visit. Sometimes they'll do your insurance processing and then send you a bill for $800. I let anyone who might have to send me any kind of mail know that I was going to be gone for a bit. And don't send it, call me. And then I had a friend just pick up my mail, and she will toss out all the junk mail, which 99% of it is. And then if there's something that looks like I need to deal with it, she'll call me or send me a picture, and I will call the company or whomever and deal with it. As for packages, I think that there is a program that you can arrange with the postal service to have packages sent to a post office and then you go pick them up. I have zero experience with that, and that's because if I know that I need to order something online or I need a package, I will anticipate a friend's house or somewhere that I'm going to be and have it sent there, and then I'll pick it up whenever I get there. If you have medications that you have to routinely pick up, that's a whole nother conversation you're going to have with your physician and figure that all out. But I will also remind people that there's still stores in the U.S. You can go shop in a store. If you need to get a pair of hiking boots, you don't have to go to Amazon necessarily. There are stores. So I would say more often than not, even if it costs a little bit more, I'll just go to a brick and mortar rather than play the shipping guessing game. So it's going to be okay. We have stores. The last thing that I had to get shipped was the drone. Now, if you saw some of the last 2 travel videos, yes, I got a drone. Yes, I made fun of drones relentlessly because my issue with drones in van life channels is that they're just used to get the same predictable shot, which is up high with watching the van drive around a curve or near the beach. And it's the same shot over and over again, or they're in every God blessed van tour video. So I just didn't want to get one. What happened was, when I was in Memphis shooting that story about St. Jude Hospital, I stayed with 2 friends from college, Stacy and Catherine. Stacy's a boy. Don't let that complicate you. And Stacy and I went out to the Mississippi River, and I'm looking at the Mississippi River with my camera and seeing one angle, and Stacy takes his little drone and lifts it up and gets this amazing shot of the river and the pyramid. And so I'm looking at what I have and I'm looking at what Stacy has. And ever the competitive one, I thought, this thing I must have. So the drone really is for what's ahead of us, which is the Rust Belt. In the Rust Belt, there are going to be plenty of places, and y'all know I love exploring abandoned buildings, where it is just not safe for me to be in there by myself. And so this is going to give me the opportunity to get video where I can send her into an abandoned, actually it's a boy, and I've already named him, I'll tell you that in a second. But I can send the drone in and either scope out what's inside or fly over fences where I shouldn't be and really keep myself safe. And so that was the real drive behind getting the drone. Oh, the unending fascination with lay shitter. Get out of here, bug. Just when I think I've answered all the questions about lay shitter, a new lay shitter question pops up. For people who are new, I'm going to kill this bug. The big concern is does it leak? Do the bags leak? People who are new on the road, you're probably going to go through all kinds of hoop jumping to like make sure it doesn't leak and that there are no mistakes, and then you're just going to get over all that. Yes, you can go on the internet and buy special camping toilet bags and you'll spend a fortune, and then when you finish that set, you'll never buy them again. Yes, sometimes they leak and it's fine. You just deal with it. Every adult has at some point changed a baby's diaper, even if you don't have kids. And what do you just deal with it. And it's no different. You just have a bigger diaper to offer the world. Again, at Walmart, whatever nice smelly bag, these actually do smell really good. What goes in them does not. It's Febreze fresh. I think the best that you can do, get in there, is, and they've got all these are promises that are not real, like leak guard, rip guard, 3-in-1 odor shield. At the end of the day, nowhere on this box does it say you can pee and poop in this and have no problems. There's no marketing claim on here that says that. Sometimes at some point in an assembly line of production, maybe a little pinhole tear is going to get into one of these. That's not Glade's fault. It's just reality. It's a plastic bag. If it leaks, Lay Shitter it's the outside case, and then there's the bucket inside of it. You pick up the bag, double bag it, get rid of it, and then clean out the inner bucket. And then you're done. It's really not a big deal, I promise. As an extra precaution, now at home, like when I was living in my house, I'm that lady at the grocery store who brings like all of her canvas grocery bags that I've like folded up nicely, and I bag all my stuff myself while I look judgingly at the people who use plastic bags. And here on the road, now, and which this makes me a huge hypocrite. Oh God, I love plastic bags. When I'm at the grocery store, I'm like, you know what, maybe we should triple bag that. It's because I use them in the event that the Lay Shitter bags leak. I have extra plastic bags on hand. You take care of it. Honestly, your biggest worries on the road have nothing to do with the toilet. Nothing. Stationary van life. This question I've got enough where I think it's worth a discussion. There's a contingent of people who do not want to or cannot travel, and they want to continue on their normal working life, family life, social life, not in an apartment, not in a house. They want to do it in a van because they think they're going to save money. And the question is that a good idea? I would not do that. I would not do that. For starters, everything you do takes longer in a van. So if you're on an 8 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever kind of schedule, everything you do to even get ready to be at work takes longer. At home, I plug in the kettle, it's electric, it boils the water, hot shower is all right there, get dressed, out the door, done. Just the act of making tea in the morning is like setting up the stove, getting the propane, hooking up the propane, getting the water. If I don't have enough water, I gotta go find water. The time to boil it is longer because it's, an open flame and not electricity. And then, I can't go and drive with the hot kettle, so I gotta let that cool down. I mean, my point is that every single step in just getting out the door takes longer, and a big portion of every day is hunting for resources, getting your water tanks full, going grocery shop. I mean, it's just time consuming. So to do that under an employer's expectation of time, I just don't see how that would be enjoyable in the long run. And I also don't see how it's going to be that much cheaper necessarily. The variables that play into that are too much to calculate for every single person. But you're so much of your existence is involved in managing the van that I'm not sure how that would work. Now, when there's some guys who have messaged me about wanting to do this, their biggest concern is, will it affect their sex life? Will living in a van affect their dating life? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're messaging this concern to some woman who you've never met before, you're probably already having issues with your sex life. So the good news is there will be a seamless transition. Yeah, I don't know many women that are going to be into that. Like what are you going to tell her? Hey baby, why don't you come on over? I'm parked in D3. Yeah, D3. Just drive on over. I'm the white windowless van and parked in section D3. Come on. No. And then the other group, and these ladies I've had some serious conversations with. And now I'm not a mom, so I'm not terribly qualified for this. But there are some women who are single mothers who think it would be an interesting way to raise their kids on more of this not in an apartment complex, maybe more outdoorsy situation. I'm not an attorney, but I would suggest talking to yours, because if you want to do that, most states have, and there's a name for it, but it's a continuity of living situation or habitat, meaning most states demand that the home environment between the father and the mother are comparable. So I would be very concerned for any kind of custody relationship or arrangement that you have. If you move yourself and your child or children into a van or an RV, I would just hate to see someone do that thinking that this could be a fun way to experience childhood or family life, and then that put their custody situation in jeopardy because the other party it's probably going to pull that trigger very, very quickly. And also consider kids get sick a lot and they need somewhere to sleep, and you have this much space for all of you, a tricky thing. So I see where you're coming from. I do think that kids would probably get a kick out of being in parks and outside more, but that's really that's not a question to ask me. That's a question to ask your mediator or attorney or whoever else is between you and the other person. Ultimately the cheapest way to live, I think, is with roommates, and adults don't want to have roommates, which I understand. But when I was making $20,000 a year in news, I had to suck it up and have roommates, and it's a sacrifice, but the cheapest way to live is always when you're sharing resources. So you're sharing utility bills, you're sharing a roof, and so if your concern is low-cost living, travel is not low-cost living. Van life, I don't believe, is low-cost living. The only time in my life where I've been able to dramatically cut expenses is when I've had roommates. So that is all I have from y'all the past 4 months. And I think now that I'm, curving up onto the second half of my trip, we've been having this discussion a lot on my Patreon account about what is the future of this channel, and I would certainly like to hear some of your ideas below. And our options are either I finish up my route and we just stop here. I've shown you how to build a van. I've shown you some great places to travel in the US. I think you all have learned a lot of new words that come out of my mouth. So if that is its natural stop point, that's totally fine. It can keep going. I think if it keeps going, and we've discussed this at length, I either have to gut the van and change the layout, because as time goes by and I'm editing, I need a workspace, and I would really like to have the opportunity to have a shower if I get into a situation like today where I don't have one and I smell like a gym bag. And now my pillow's gonna smell like a gym bag. So either this has to be redone, or I transfer into a small RV where it's already laid out and there's a table and everything. I am not a huge fan of RVs at all. I've said that a lot. I think they're hideous. It's plastic everything. I hate those ugly swish things on the outside. But in reality, I am never stealth parking, or it's very rare. So it's not like it matters if I'm going to be staying at Walmart parking lots anyway. And to do what I'm doing, if the decision is to continue, I need some workspace. I would like some workspace. So that's an option to continue. And then if the majority consensus is to continue, because it sounds like the travel videos are the main interest now, which is great, because I don't know how much more I could talk about this van, then in what capacity? And options there. Now, I'm really not terribly interested in doing the West Coast. For one thing, it's littered with typical van people, which no thank you. I've lived on the West Coast. It's extremely expensive. It's a lot harder to find parking there. And I'm all about like old Victorian history and that time period, and it's not as rich on that side of the country. So then do we just try new places in the South and the Rust Belt and the Northeast? I do not want to go to Mexico in the winter because that's where all the van people are. No. We've also got some contentious issues between the US and Mexico right now. So do we try another country? And if we do, does that involve the van at all? I looked into shipping the van. You can do that, but it's like $7,000. Of course, renting a van is also extremely expensive. But, if history and unique stories are the thing, I'll tell you what, there are some other countries, most countries are older than the US, so they're like a gold mine. Scotland is like a gold mine. So anyway, I'm totally up for suggestions, but that conversation kind of has to start now. And if it is that, we've had a good run and then we'll move on, and that's fine too. I'm up for anything. Right now I'd really be up for a loofah filled with soap and a hot shower. So I'm going to go get a little bit more sunshine and maybe play with Falcor a bit where I am to practice. But I hope some of that information was helpful, and rock and roll. We're going to be tearing up the Rust Belt for the next bit, and I'm pretty sure most channels do not go to the Rust Belt in a van, so buckle up. I'll see y'all later.